What's going on, guys? Welcome to the last part of this section. In this part, I wanted to talk a little bit more about this results protocol delegate that we very quickly glossed over in the last video. So we do have it set up already, but I definitely wanted to talk about it a little more since it's pretty important and a pretty critical pattern in iOS. So what did we actually do here? So we have a results controller and this watch list. Now this watch list controller actually goes and performs this API call with our query that we have typed in, and if and when it gets results, it updates the search results controller with empty results or our given results here. The problem now that arises in the results controller is when the user selects one of the rows that we see in the UI, we want to present a controller. But the issue is this results controller is not the current controller on the UI, such that the controller that needs to present any other UI needs to be the original one, which is in this case the watch list. So this begs the question of, okay, we tapped on a row in this controller. We want to tell this watch list controller what did we tap on, and then that controller will respectively handle what to do. This is where we enter in a delegate. So the concept of a delegate, it's nothing more than a protocol, some contract and interface that we have an instance of. In this case, it's called delegate, it's common naming pattern. And we have a function here that basically says search results view controller did select the given search results. So we basically tell whoever our delegate is at this point in time, hey, I just went ahead and received a selection of this search results, whether it's by user input or otherwise. So all we do here in the table view function is we say, hey delegate, we just selected this model. Now notice it's a delegate question mark, aka optional, aka it might be nil. So if we come back to our watch list controller and go all the way up to where we configured our results controller, you see here before we actually pass it on into our search controller, we say results VC delegate is self. So what we're saying is that controller's delegate will be myself. In this case, we're in watch list controller. So whenever we call that delegate function, we end up in here where we have conformed to the search results view controller delegate protocol, and we have its function implemented. Now we're just printing, I should say, the symbol, but what we actually want to go ahead and do is we would want to create a detail view controller. So I'm going to go ahead and create that detail view controller, and from here, we can actually go about presenting it. Now let me also wrap it inside of a navigation view controller, and we're gonna say the root controller is VC. I'm gonna go ahead and say that VC's title is going to be search results is what we called it, the inbound parameter, dot description. And then finally, we're going to go ahead and say present the navigation controller with an animation, which is true. Now, we haven't built out this detail controller, but that's besides the point at the moment. Let's go ahead and give it a run, and let's see what this actually looks like in practice. All right, so I'm going to search for maybe Alphabet. Hopefully I spelled that correctly, which is what Google trades under. So there is Alphabet, and we see the first one, Goog, and I click on it, and we get our detail controller presented. Now it looks a little funky because we don't have a background color, but if I go back and dismiss it, we're back at our search results. Now, one other thing we want to do, aside from adding the color there, is we want to dismiss the keyboard when we tap on one of the results. So now that we're in the the watch list controller, we have access to that particular search bar. So we're going to say navigation item. We're going to go to search controller, grab its search bar, and we're going to say resign first responder, since we now have access to it, and that'll dismiss the keyboard. Let me jump into this stock detail controller and just set a background color in here. And let's go ahead and do that. We'll set this up right up here. We'll say view.background color, and this is going to be a system background, just like that. Now, when we end up creating this more in detail in the later sections, we're gonna want to pass in, the symbol, the company name, and optionally, any chart data we may have. So we're not going to do that just quite yet since we've got a lot of other stuff to go through first. But let's go ahead and give this a run and let's see if we see the keyboard getting dismissed and the details controller being presented. So let's go ahead and search for Snap because everyone loves Snapchat. So let's go ahead and open it up and boom, we get Snap Inc. The A is for Class A shares. That's what it actually trades under. And if we dismiss this, we actually don't have the keyboard anymore either. So looking pretty good. So that's all I got for this part. Wanted to make sure that delegate and protocol were nice and clear for everybody. Let me know if anyone has any questions. Very critical pattern in iOS, and we're going to leverage this as we progress in the next sections and parts. So that's it for this video and the section. In the next section, we're going to start building that news floating panel that everyone knows and loves and that I think looks pretty darn good too. So I will see you guys there in that next part.